Welcome to Nickel City Mafia, where we talk all things in Buffalo. Today, we're going to get into the post-game report. The game between the Carolina Panthers and the Buffalo Bills. It was pretty ugly. But anyhow, Jake, we just announced our winner a few minutes back of the giveaway. Sean, Redline, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Sorry if I'm not saying that right. We did confirm
Ryan Redline.
Who did I say? Did I
You
not
said
say
Sean. It's okay.
Did I say Sean? I'm so sorry. I have Sean in my mind.
I think you
Ryan
did.
Redline. Actually, Ryan is a subscriber to the channel. So congratulations, Ryan. We put a comment out there for you to respond, and we'll be in touch with you. All right, let's go over here real quick. So, Jake, it was an ugly game. Right? It was I don't know, not a game that you want to finish the preseason on, but hey, there were no starters. For our side at least. So we'll set the stage there. It was ugly. There was a black cloud looming, and that was with the news that broke on Thursday about Matt Ariza, right? I mean, you just knew it was going to get rough, not only in the media. That's all the media wanted to talk about. I have to think it affected the game somewhat, somehow. Horrible news with some accusations or allegations that have been put against Ariza. I mean, you saw after the game, not only did they perform kind of poorly on the field, again, it'll set the stage for who was out there, starters and non-starters. But after the game, the post-game press conference with McDermott was just sad. It was so sad. It was like, and again, we're not going to get into a lot of the details. It's been talked about, to death for the most part. That's all that's been talked about out on not only social media, but out there and news channels all over the place. And all I can say is the Bills did the right thing. I hope justice is served in this matter, and my thoughts and prayers go out to all the families that are involved. But again, I believe the Bills made the right choice. It's just you saw it's what kind of a distraction it can be, and it's not what the Bills need going into the season. So, any thoughts on that, Jake, before we get into
my thought is I need one of these. I'll tell you, being one of the biggest supporters of Matt Ariza prior to this starting, cheers to nothing, but just going to have this because it's just an awful thing. It was so sickening. I don't even want to really talk about him too much. I just feel like there's no place for him in the league. There's no place for him on the team. Of course, I'm happy with how the Bills handled it. I know there was a lot of press, coming at them saying they should have cut him right away when they heard about this. I think they wanted to, get to the bottom of everything. And I understand that there's a sort of a process. You want to evaluate both sides of the story and all that stuff. But I think it was just too much for them to not move forward without him. So I'm glad we made the right decision. I have thrown my jersey in the garbage. I'm glad I didn't spend $1,000 on it, Mike.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. And I do have a Reggie Gilliam jersey in the mail right now as we speak. And I'm hoping, I'll tell you what, I have had a string of bad luck with my jerseys. And this dates back to Michael Vick. So I had Michael Vick, I had Plexico Burris, then I had Darren Sharper. You can add Matt Ariza to that list now too. Wow. But I said to my wife, if Reggie Gilliam does something crazy, I'm done buying jerseys. But I've been pretty good. I mean, I got my Micah Hyde. I got a few other guys. So I have like 70 total jerseys. So you have a few outliers. And for the most part, I'm pretty good with picking guys that have decent character. Would have never expected this, totally out of left field. A ton of comments have really aged poorly with, obviously talking about him and whatnot. But we made the right move. And I'll tell you what, cheers to a better, brighter future for the Bills. And I'll tell you this, I think we have a chance to land an even better player, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So cheers to that.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well get into that right away. Like, all right,
sure.
So we had no punter for the Carolina game. We had Matt Barkley, who actually did pretty decent.
That's hilarious, by the way.
You and I were talking. It's like, hey, what if the Bills were the first team to not have a punter on their team, and they just had somebody else? Back in the old days, Paul McGuire, he played linebacker for the Bills. He punted for the Bills. As kids, we all practice punting, right? I mean, I know if you're into football at all, we were all punters at some point in our time, in our life. And I'm sure there's some Bills players there that can punt the ball pretty damn well. and let's save that roster spot for somebody else, right? We're not going to punt a lot. That's what we hope, at least. That's what we keep saying. But we know we're going to have to punt in some crucial situations.
Sure.
But Jake, who do you think? I mean, who are we going out there for? Who's on your list?
Well, so originally the first thought I had is why don't we sign the local kid Jake Shum? And I get people are sort of on both sides of this. Obviously, local kid has played in the NFL. It's been a few years, obviously. I think since 2016, actually, since he's taken an NFL punting snap. He did play in the XFL in 2020. He did pretty good there. He had back surgery, so that was the whole reason why there was such a gap in between his NFL and XFL career. And he's still keeping in shape. I mean, he's been punting nonstop. I see videos of him. He's still right in the area, too. He's in Hamburg, so obviously not far. And I think worthy of a workout. I mean, why not bring him in? But there's another guy that I think actually is an even better fit and has sort of been talked about. There's been a little bit of buzz around it because he might get cut. And that's Brett Kern, who is an all-pro punter, has been one of the better punters in the league over the last decade. And there's a kid that they have right now, Ryan Stonehouse, who has looked really good in the preseason. And I believe Brett Kern was actually inactive in their last preseason game. So things are sort of pointing to him being cut, which could be a great thing for the Bills because he might just land right into our lap. He is also a local guy, too. He went to Grand Island High School, Mike. So I think it's a natural fit for him. Toledo guy, Mac guy, at the end of his career. Maybe he wants to win a ring. I think he does. He's been with the Titans. He's been kind of close. I mean, he's been a playoff punter, and I think it'd be a great move for us. So I'm more on the side of signing Brett Kern as compared to Jake Shum. I saw Marquette King tweeted out to us too, saying that he wants to get a ring. He's got Sky Miles to use. Boy, he would bring some swag to the building, but I think a lot of people are against that as well. It's been a couple of years for him. He had a pretty bad, I think it was a leg injury or something. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but I know it sort of hurt him quite a bit. And I know John Gruden wasn't a huge fan of his antics, although I loved it. I thought he brought some swag to the punter position, but I am more in favor of bringing in Brett Kern as our punter.
Okay. And you're right. There's going to be some opportunities. Like teams are going to be cutting 27 players, and there's going to be before Tuesday, and there's going to be some punters, I'm sure. I'm not sure if Matt Hawk's even guaranteed to get a spot. I don't know if he
right.
If
they have Rigoberto Sanchez, who is injured right now, and that was the reasoning for signing Matt Hawk. But yeah, whether he stays on that roster, I'm not really sure. So there are some options, definitely.
Yeah. So, and then I think in a pinch again, let's get Micah Hyde. Micah Hyde seems to be all-purpose. He can return punts. He can return kickoffs. He's one of the best safeties in the league. He could probably punt as well, I bet.
Probably could, man.
All right. Well, we'll see. It'll be interesting. I'm sure we'll be hearing about who the Bills sign as a punter in the next couple of days for sure. We are, 11 days away from opening day, SoFi Stadium. Unbelievable. We'll be there at that game, myself and my three boys. Super excited about that. Hoping again to meet many more Bills Mafia fans. I think we're going to take over SoFi Stadium. See a lot of blue. A lot of blue, a lot of Bills blue. I know the Rams have a little blue in their jersey, but we're going to be wearing Bills blue out there and maybe some Bills white jerseys out there as well.
So I heard that the Rams are going to wear their white uniforms, their Super Bowl uniforms. So they'll be in white. The Bills will probably be in this nice blue color.
Good, because I have my Josh Allen jersey ready to go for that game.
And that is awesome, Mike. I mean, that looks as authentic as it's going to get. I mean, you get to show off the guns a little bit walking in there.
I know.
You're not going to wear sleeves under it, right? You're going to show off a little bit, right?
I've been working. I've been doing a little workout. I said I got to get the guns.
I love it.
So I get to show them off.
Nice.
That's funny.
Nice.
All right, let's get into it. It was an ugly game, so let's set the stage here. So the Bills deferred, so they kicked off, right? And Baker Mayfield took the field. So the Carolina Panthers had their starters in on offense. I don't know how many of them, but quite a few. And they gave Baker, I think Baker played quite a bit, right? Did he play?
He played pretty well
for the first quarter. Or did he play through the second quarter?
It was into the second quarter, right?
Yeah, it was into the second. That's right.
Yeah.
So, and he did pretty well. And again, he went against our backups. There is no starter. I take that back. There was a starter. It was one of our corners, right? Whether it's going to be Elam, whether it's going to be Dane. I think Dane even played, right? Dane Jackson.
I don't think Dane played. I thought it was Kyer Elam and Christian Benford out there.
Benford, and Cam Lewis. got
Right.
some time as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
So one of those three could be started. And I say that because we still don't know what's up with Trey White for day one. Right now, even all the media that has access to Bill's training going on right now, or practices, I should say, there's been no sight of him recently, and there's been no talk. So my gut tells me that he might be put on the IR, which means he has to be on the IR for at least 4 weeks. And if
Right.
that happens, you're going to have Dane Jackson. We know Dane Jackson's locked in as one of the starters, and you're going to either have Kyer, we're either going to have Benford or Cam, but I believe it's going to be either Elam or Benford, and I have to say I give the edge to Elam. They drafted him number 1
Yeah.
overall for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and he's also looked good. He's actually looked good in any of the preseason games that we've watched them in, and they've had him in all 3 preseason games. So he's been getting a lot of work, and of course he gets a lot of work against one of the best offenses in the league, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
anyhow, good stuff there. So that sets the stage, right? So the Panthers had the ball first, and so we're going to start with the defensive side of things, and we'll start with the defensive line. I'll throw it to you. Talk to me. Anybody really stand out? I really only had maybe 1 or 2 people, but talk to me about any standouts for you on the defensive line.
Mike Love, again, he has been unreal this entire preseason, and it's such a tough roster for him to crack. I do think he gets another chance elsewhere. It's going to be tough for him to make this final roster. I mean, even practice squad, I think he might get snooped or swooped by another team. It's just going to be one of those things where, we have so much talent on our depth in terms of, who we have right now. It's just, I feel like that guy really made a name for himself this preseason, and I could definitely see him being on another team, unfortunately. But boy, I mean, what a great job by him. So shout out to Mike Love. Again, Shaq Lawson, I thought was really well. I thought he did a great job. He played fantastic. Yeah. I think he has officially solidified a spot on this roster. So Shaq Lawson definitely will be on the team. Mike Love, I feel like maybe practice squad, but if he makes it to practice squad,
If he makes it to practice squad,
those two were my standouts, definitely.
Yeah, same for me. I mean, Lawson was all over the place again, making some plays. Love what I saw from him. And, Mike bringing the love, as I've been saying the last couple shows.
Yeah.
Got a great name, first of all. And he's been bringing the love on the field as well. So you're right. I don't know. I don't think he makes the 53-man roster. And the question is going to be, is he going to clear waivers, right? And we got to keep in mind that the Bills' depth is so good that a lot of teams are just waiting. They're just waiting to see who the Bills are going to release and then swoop in and pick them up. We've already had a few of our folks swooped in. Teams have swooped in and picked up some of the players that we've released already. And I'm sure there are going to be more. And so defensive line, I'm thinking of anyone else. Anyone else? Did anyone disappoint you a little bit? So let me throw this out there. Boogie Basham's been getting a lot of play. I think Boogie was out there.
I was going to say right? Boogie.
So Boogie, again, going against the first stringers. We expect to see a lot of Boogie this year. I'm hoping he's going to, the Bills rotate that defensive line. I don't know. Something about Boogie just hasn't wowed me. I don't know if you share those same thoughts or not.
I would say up until this game, it's been quite the opposite, Mike. I think he's actually played extremely well. Okay. And then this past Friday just really didn't show up. He had the one penalty, the offsides, which was huge because that was on a 4th down where we could have had a stop and a turnover on downs, but cost us a big play there. Sometimes I think he is a little over aggressive, and that's okay from time to time, but when it's a consistent thing, it definitely hurts the team. I don't think he's in jeopardy of losing his spot. He's going to be a rotational guy. I think he's looked really good up until this point. Had a tough game on Friday for sure, but he'll rebound. He'll be okay.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's making the roster. It was good to see them getting him out there to get some reps for sure. But we do expect, he was our 2nd round draft pick last year, and we expect some big things from him. He had a very good college career. And I go back and I'm like, man, I said that he would be ahead of Rousseau, but that hasn't been the case. But I do think Boogie showed a lot last year. Whenever he did get in, he made plays. And again, I guess I can toss out this last game. And for sure, I think we'll see him making some nice plays this year.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at the interior defenders here. I mean, we can go real quick. Okay, it's part of the show is kind of talking about
Yeah, yeah,
we're not gonna have a
of course.
full 53 man roster prediction. There's tons of shows doing that. We'll touch on some of these positional battles. To me, it's pretty locked in on who's going to be on defensive line. So I don't think we need to talk too much about that. But let's move to the linebackers, Jake, and tell me what you saw on the field. Anybody that impressed you? Anyone that kind of disappointed you? Talk to me there.
So in terms of tackling and aggressiveness and getting there, I think Balin Spector again, he led the team in tackles with 8 total. His coverage was a little suspect, which we knew. He's tended to struggle with that, and that's not really his game. He's actually more of like an AJ Klein, probably not a 3 or 4 down linebacker. He's more in there for run stopping and just I guess special teams play too. You could add that to the list, but I thought he did. It wasn't as impressive as his other 2 games. His first game, he came out and he looked unreal. I mean, even in coverage, he wasn't bad. Then he played, against the Broncos. He had that one play where it was a tremendous catch. So I'm not going to fault him too much for that. But he just looked a little out of place on Friday, I thought, in terms of his coverage ability, which, you got to know exactly the type of player you're getting in him, and that's not really his game. So I definitely think from a run stopping standpoint, he's pretty good. He's very solid, but he definitely needs work in pass coverage. There's no doubt about it. So that's what stood out to me. I thought Terrell Bernard, he was in there a little bit. Linebacker play across the board, I wasn't super enthusiastic about. I thought they definitely struggled a bit on Friday, But I invaluable experience to get out there and play a little bit, especially our younger guys. So Terrell Bernard, I think he's going to be a player in this league. He's going to be okay. And another guy that I thought needs to work a little bit on his coverage skills. Even so, I mean, he was more of a hybrid guy coming in. You thought maybe he could play in like a nickel formation package, and he would kind of be like a bigger nickel guy playing in the slot. But I don't know. I am a little nervous about, his ability to cover, these NFL tight ends and slot receivers. It doesn't seem to be like it's a natural transition for him, like we thought it would be.
Yeah, I think there was a couple plays where they sent him on the blitz and he got there. He was
and that's another thing he's known for, and I think that is definitely more up his alley than being a cover guy.
Right, but I totally agree with you. Every time I've watched him on the field in coverage, he hasn't made any breakups on the pass play, and he's always been behind that receiver. So again, I totally agree with you there. As far as let's see here. Andre Smith continued to play. I always feel he plays well in preseason. If he ever gets a shot, of course, we're going to be without him for the first 6 weeks of the season. I do think I was questioning whether the Bills would keep him around, but he just does so well in these preseason games. I think you got to keep him around. And let's see, we know Andre Smith, so I'm thinking he's going to be a lock. Terrell Bernard. Now he'll be on the suspended, so that does for 6 weeks. So that does open up a spot. We know. Pretty sure, even though we've been talking negative right now, I think Terrell Bernard is a lock.
Oh, yeah.
Tyrell Dotson, he's been on the team. I believe he's a lock. Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmonds, Tyler Matakovich, and Balin Spector. It'll be interesting. I do think he makes the team potentially, but and then Joe Giles Harris. Right.
I thought Joe Giles Harris had a pretty nice preseason. He didn't play as well on Friday, but I definitely thought he did enough to at least warrant a conversation on whether he should be on the practice squad. He definitely he showed that he could play in the league a little bit as just a depth guy at the very minimal. How he played on special teams, I didn't really see a whole lot of that. I think between the two, I definitely err more towards Balin Spector being on the team than he is, but definitely another conversation to have at linebacker. And as you mentioned, it's nice because Andre Smith, he's not going to take up a roster spot, at least for that first 6 weeks. So even if we have a guy like Balin Spector or Joe Giles Harris on the active roster, we can eventually put them back down to practice squad. And I feel like midway through the season like that, it's not as likely that they'll get picked up by another team.
Yeah, so last year we kept 6 linebackers. We had Edmonds, Milano, Klein, Dotson, Smith, and Matakovich. Am I saying his name wrong?
Yeah, Tyler
Oh
Matakevich.
God, I'm saying his name so
That's okay.
brutal. So I think Matakevich. There you go. I got it.
You got
Matakevich
it.
makes it again. He's a special teams guy. Andre Smith, I think they will. Again, he'll be on the suspension, so that does open up another spot for at least 6 weeks. Dotson, I believe, is there again. We know Klein's gone. Milano and Edmonds. So if we look at this and we're saying that we have 6 spots right now, and knowing that Smith is going to be on the suspended list, let's look at here real quick. So I'll go through these linebackers real quick, and let's just kind of say who we think are locks. I don't think there's really any big questions here, honestly.
Yeah.
So Matakevich, lock. Edmonds, lock. Milano, lock. Dotson, pretty sure a lock.
I think he's in, yeah.
Bernard, a lock.
And then that's 6th spot.
So that's the 6th spot. And I have to say it's going to be Spector, right?
I agree. Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, let's get into one of the position battles that are, to me, is going to be interesting. And this is somewhere where we could potentially release a very good player, and they're going to be picked up quickly. And that is at the cornerback position. So let me throw it over to you. Talk to me about cornerbacks.
I thought Cam Lewis had a pretty tough game. It was just not a great showing to end off his preseason here. It was brutal. It was a tough one for him. So, do I think his job is in jeopardy? Yes, I definitely do. I think Jamarcus Ingram probably doesn't make the roster. Right now, we're talking about that final corner spot. So we have the locks. We have Trey White, but he won't count for a roster spot pending on what we do with him if he's on the PUP list or if he's on IR. Let's say he doesn't count for right now, Mike.
Okay.
So we have Dane Jackson, Kyer Elam, Christian Benford, Saran Neal, Taron Johnson, who I don't know how I forgot about him. So that's 5. I think 6 is the magic number. So it's really between Cam Lewis, Jamarcus Ingram. Am I missing someone? Who am I missing?
Let's see. Jordan Miller.
Jordan
Nick
Miller.
McLeod.
Nick McLeod, my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the battle is really between Cam Lewis and Nick McLeod, between those two.
So interesting. So last year they kept 6 corners. Actually, let me check here. Let me double check. 1, 2, 3, 4. They only kept 5, actually. So that initial 53-man roster had 5 corners. That included Trey White. So Trey White, let's assume he's on the IR. And let's those 5 corners that will potentially stay for at least the first 4 weeks of the season. Again, you kind of named most of them there. We know Saran Neal. I think he's still locked based on his special teams ability. Taron Johnson, of course. Kyer Elam, of course. Dane Jackson, of course. Now that if they are going to stick with 5, now we're talking Benford or Cam Lewis, right?
And you got to keep Christian Benford based on play alone.
Based on how he's played, based on how he's done in camp. So again, I think we are going to probably lose Cam Lewis, and somebody's going to snag him up. It's actually interesting. I'm over here on the PFF site, and I'm looking at the cornerbacks, and they don't have Cam Lewis there. I wonder if what they have him listed under. They don't have him listed as a cornerback for us. This guy.
I usually use Our Lads. I think that is by far the best depth chart site as far as like sites to use that I've looked at least. They usually update that daily, and they should have the full list of corners on there.
Yeah, so they have them. So interesting. PFF has them as a safety, believe it or not.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, all right. So I agree. There we go on the corners. Going to be interesting. I feel a lot better about our corner situation than I did going into preseason with all these young guys. Dean Jackson I was even concerned about. But they have put my mind at ease, and I was asking for us to pick up a vet. I don't think we need to at all.
It's wild. The Joe Hayden talk seems to have sort of died down. You know, another guy that's out there is Chris Harris, who is another older guy. He's had a couple of injuries, but a proven veteran, you know, so he's just kind of waiting out there in the wings as well. But Joe Hayden was sort of the talk. I mean, Von Miller was going golfing with him. I know he was lobbying to have him signed, but nothing happened there. Although there was a very interesting restructure of Deion Dawkins' contract this past week, and that makes me think: Are we making space to sign Is it Odell? Is it
Yeah.
another big name player? Or we just want that extra cap moving into the season just in case there's an injury? Could be
Yeah.
one of those three.
I have to think Bean has something in mind as far as I'm thinking it's to go after a player, and maybe it is
Brett
Odell.
Kern.
Well, Kern, I mean, but we freed up what, 5 million in cap
Yeah.
space,
Yep.
and that seems to be a little bit more than, or maybe right around what Odell might be commanding.
Sure.
So we'll see. I don't know. There is still a lot of buzz around Odell joining the squad. I mean, players on the team, Von Miller, and who's the other one that was like out there trying to bringing him onto the team? It was Von.
I know Von's been the biggest one. He even posted like Odell in a Bills uniform. He's
Yeah.
photoshopping out here. I mean, he's lobbying hard.
Yeah, interesting. Well, that we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the safeties. Pretty much was Damar Hamlin and Jaquan Johnson. I don't see any change there. It is interesting. I'm looking at PFF. They do have Cam Lewis there and safety. Interesting. But we already know Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, locks for sure. I have to say Damar Hamlin, a lock. And Jaquan Johnson, he's been all over the place.
We have a gem in Jaquan Johnson,
Yeah,
Mike.
I've been very impressed with him.
Unbelievable. He has looked really, really good. I feel super comfortable. If there is an injury or something to one of our safeties, he can step in and fill in no problem. And this actually brings up a good conversation because we're talking about Jordan Poyer a little bit and whether we pay him or not. My dad puts in there, got to pay him. I don't know. I mean, Jaquan Johnson has looked really, really good in the preseason here. I know it's just preseason, but man, he can play. I think he's worthy of a starting spot on another team for sure. I feel like we got to find a way to get him on the field, even if it's like in a nickel formation or whatever it may be. Maybe we use a 3 safety package or that guy is legitimate. I really like him a lot. I know the coaching staff's been talking him up quite a bit, but boy, he's a hell of a player.
Yeah, I agree. So last year we kept 4 safeties: Micah Hyde, Poyer, Jaquan Johnson, and Damar Hamlin, and I believe that's going to be the same this year.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
I do agree with Big Al. Maybe that money was freed up for Poyer. I don't know. We'll find
Could
out. But good input, Big Al. So yeah, I think there's no change from last year at the safety position, which pretty much means, let's see here, Josh Thomas will probably be. I think he does clear waivers and will be on the practice squad potentially.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. All right. Let's switch over to the offensive side. So let's set the stage. Again, no starters on offense for the Buffalo Bills. And I want to say on both defense and offense, they struggled a lot.
Underwhelming.
Right? They struggled.
Sure.
It was ugly. Now, I will say this. I do want to paint the picture. Carolina had, I believe, the second best defense last year. They were a top-rated defense last year. With Baker Mayfield, I think it elevates them. It was sad to see the injury to Sam Darnold. I think he's going to miss about 4 to 6 weeks with that injury. How cool was that? Josh Allen. Josh Allen actually works out with him. He went over there, when he was on the cart, and saying some kind words to him. But Baker Mayfield is going to elevate that team. He looked pretty sharp with some of his throws. And if that offense can complement that defense, they're going to be much better. They're going to be a good team, I feel. So
they're legit, man.
That's just my take, because even our second, third stringers against their second and third stringers, it was pretty much a wash. Right?
Yeah.
And so I believe they're going to be a pretty good team. But let's set the stage here for our offense. No starters on our side. We had Case Keenum starting. And I have to believe, and I don't know for sure, you can confirm this for me, did they have some starters going on defense for them?
They did, yeah. Derek Brown had a big play. I don't know if you saw the sack. He absolutely destroyed Bobby Hart. Bobby Hart had a really tough game. But Derek Brown, he was a first-round pick for them, actually. And you know what? That defense is going to be legit this year. I feel like they have a lot of young studs on that team. Brian Burns, Derek Brown, J.C. Horn. You got the kid out of Southern Illinois. Who am I thinking of? He's a safety. He's unbelievable.
Can help you there.
Gosh, this is going to kill me. I don't know why I can't even think of his name. I gotta pull it up.
So I don't know who was the commentators for me. It was actual Steve Smith, which is a former Carolina Panther.
He
was doing the color commentary. Was that who was doing it for what you watched?
No, so you must have had the Panthers broadcast. We had Steve
Yeah.
Tasker and Andrew Catalano.
Okay. So C. Smith called Brown.
Jeremy Chin, by the way. That I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. He's legit, man. He's coming back with a vengeance this year.
Is Brown the big guy? Because he was just giving whoever was on guard just fits. And C. Smith was calling him the dump truck. Nobody stopping the dump truck.
Yeah, he's legit.
He was. So that defense is very good, and they did put some starters out there. Now the only starter, I said no starters, but I take that back a little bit. Spencer Brown was out there. And now I don't think Spencer Brown is a day one. He's going to be the starter. Don't get me wrong. But because he was late into training camp with that back surgery and they're still trying to get him the reps, I don't know if he's ready to go day one. Jake, what's your thought on that? But that would be the only starter that we put out there.
He looked out of place a little bit, Mike. He looked like he was still getting his legs under him. He struggled a bit. I was not impressed with his play at all. It was pretty rough. The entire offensive line across the board played pretty poorly. What a difference between a week, you know. And I know a lot of backups were out there. You had Jacob Capra and some other guys that probably won't make the team. But, I thought he struggled quite a bit as well. It was not a great look. I think he is still getting back into shape and sort of getting his legs under him still. So I think David Quessenberry will be our starting right tackle come day one.
Okay. I have to agree there. Yeah, the line looked rough. I think was it Bobby Hart looked really
and that's
rough.
A guy that's looked really good this entire preseason. I mean, Brandon Beane was kind of praising him a little bit on how he's been able to develop and sort of take the criticism and channel it and become a better player. But he really he was struggling a bit. Although he was going up against Derek Brown, who's
I know.
A really good player.
But still, I mean, we're going to go against a couple of those players this year, those type of players.
Mm-hmm.
And if we needed him in there. So last year we kept 4 tackles. We kept Dawkins, Darrell Williams, Spencer Brown, and Doyle. Obviously, Deion Dawkins is going to be back. Darrell Williams is going to be back. Tommy Doyle, interesting. Let's see here.
Darrell Williams is gone.
Yeah, no, I know. Did I say Darrell Williams? I'm sorry if I did. What I meant was is that we know that Dawkins and Spencer Brown are a lock, right?
Right.
And yes, Darrell Williams gone. Tommy Doyle now. You know, we know that Quessenberry is a lock now. So that's your third guy. And we got Alec Anderson, Bobby Hart, Luke Tenuta, and Tommy Doyle. Who do you pick from to be that fourth tackle?
Yeah. I think Tommy Doyle gets the benefit of the doubt. They really like him. I know he's been banged up a little bit. He was actually on a riding scooter thing, but it looks like he's getting back and he's getting healthy. So I do think we keep him for sure. Luke Tenuta is an interesting prospect. Maybe he goes down to practice squad. He's struggled a little bit, but I think his play has gotten better throughout the preseason here, and he is an absolute mammoth of a human being as well.
He is. Offensive line are always interesting, though, because there's always teams in need of good offensive linemen. So could he clear waivers based on what you saw in preseason? I don't know, maybe, but if they take the same approach or what you just said, where he's a mammoth of a person and they feel they can develop him. But again, when they sign him, I believe they have to sign him to their active roster. So
they do.
You have to remember
so
that.
So they have to feel like he's a better player than one of their 52 other guys.
Correct.
You know, or better 53, whatever. Yeah.
With that in mind, I have to believe he does clear waivers, and we see him on the practice squad. Bobby Hart, no way. He's maybe gets on the practice squad again.
I think he's a guard. So he's a guard. He's kicking inside the guard. I know they have him listed. Well. Yeah. They have him listed at tackle. He's versatile, which is great, and the Bills love that. I think he actually makes the active roster, Mike, as a backup guard for us. Yeah, I do.
Okay, well, we'll talk about guards here shortly. Again, at tackles last year, we've talked about tackles. Let's talk about the the guard position. So we had 3. We had Feliciano last year, Cody Ford, and Ike. None of those 3 this year. Yeah. But Bucker's on, I believe Bucker's going to be on IR.
He's on the pup list.
Is he on the pup list? Okay. So that's a minimum of 6 weeks that we won't see him. But the offensive guard has changed so much for the Bills in this offseason. And we can talk about that real quick. Let's see here. Let me bring up the guards.
Yeah, so day one you'll have Roger Saffold and
Yep.
Ryan Bates as our two guards, and then the depth there. I like I said, I think Bobby Hart for sure, and then you have Greg Van Roten, who is a very good veteran player, and I like him a lot. He played very well against the Broncos, and I know we're going against backups and whatnot, but he's going to be a backup himself. But he adds a lot of good depth. He started games before. He was with the Jets last year, and I like him a lot. So I think he is another guard for us that stays on the active roster.
Did I not see him playing some center in the preseason?
Yeah, he again versatility. That's another thing, So he could play both, which is great, along with Greg Mance. But he's injured now, so that's an interesting thing as well. I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but I would have him marked and definitely pinged as our backup center to Mitch Morse.
So we'll see. I'm going to go a little bit against you. I do not think Bobby Hart makes the active roster. I'm going to go with Greg Van Roten. That's
okay.
my call. I mean, you remember last year, people were calling for Hart's head.
Oh, I know.
They're like,
I know
get rid of this guy. And I know, like you said, he's looked good in camp. He's looked pretty decent in preseason, except for that last game. But based on last year and this year, and Greg Van Roten having that experience as well, also being versatile to play center and guard, I'm gonna go with GVR. I'm gonna call him. GVR
I like it.
Is his nickname.
Smart kid too. He went to University of Penn. I mean,
yeah,
he's Ivy League school kid. Yeah, which I love. Seeing the small school guys coming on the team like that. It's great. So you think we only keep 3 guards then? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just going off of what they did last year. So again, based on the information last year, we kept 3 offensive guards. We could keep 4. Again, I'm just kind of matching up with what we did last year.
Yeah, that's fair.
And hey, if we don't need a punter, if we don't put a punter on the team, we got another spot. But I want to save that position if that ever happened for one of these other positions we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, so overall, the offensive line was a little shaky. And we did have a beautiful 19-play drive, right, that it consumed over 10 and a half minutes. And we were stopped on a 4th and 1. Unfortunately, Duke Johnson was tackled for a 2-yard loss. But anyhow, that was for me, that was the good thing that happened in this game. That was a nice drive, man. It was it was a lot of dink and dunk, nothing fancy, but it was football, old school football, just moving down the field.
Yep. I'll tell you what, Aaron Cromer was probably licking his chops. He loved probably every single second of that drive. Nothing better.
Yeah. So real quick, let's. So we talked about the line already. Tight ends, we saw OJ Howard, we saw Sweeney, and I do not want to forget your other guy that you mentioned last week. Quentin Morris was out there again as well, and he's looked pretty good during the preseason. So last year, again, I'm just going off of last year. Jake, doesn't mean they're going to do the same thing this year, but we kept 2. We had Knox and Sweeney.
Right.
So is there any way, and I'm going to tell you something, I'm a fan of Sweeney. Is there, and I do feel if he is released, he will be snagged up quickly by another team. So talk to me about what you think there. Obviously, we know Dawson Knox a lock. Who's that other tight end that you're keeping?
Wow, this has definitely been one of the more intriguing battles in terms of depth and who we're going to actually keep on the active roster. I mean, going off of play and how the guys have looked in the preseason, I think it's hard not to keep Tommy Sweeney. And that's over OJ Howard. I don't think OJ has looked very good outside of that touchdown catch. And the fact, what was really telling was that he was playing in the 4th quarter of this last game. Like, that to me says this is basically it for him. Like, this is his last chance for romance. And even so, in that 4th quarter, really didn't show a whole lot. So it's a tough situation for him because he's so, like, I feel like his potential is so high. It just really hasn't been shown. And I'm not sure if he's the right fit. I feel like, actually, this is a very good point here. I'm gonna pull this up here. This is what my dad said. He said he thinks Isaiah Hodgins makes the 53, but OJ Howard gets traded. Now, that would be really, really cool to see, I think, because for him, he still offers that value and obviously hasn't really shown it with us. But if we can get a pick, this is like the Cody Ford thing. If we could trade him and not just cut him and just let him loose and have another team pick him up and him be successful there, like if we can get a pick for him, that would be unbelievable. So I would not mind that one bit, but I actually do think we keep Tommy Sweeney as our second tight end there.
Yeah, so Sweeney had 2 catches for 36 yards on 2 targets, so he
He
caught both
looked
his
really,
targets.
really good. Yeah.
And he has looked good. And I've always said this: when Sweeney's in, now he's had some health issues that keeps him out, which is a concern always. But when he's in there, he makes plays. He's got good
Yeah.
hands, and you can count on him. If you have to throw the ball to him, he's going to make that catch. You can count on
He
that.
knows the offense too. I think that's
Yes.
a big thing with OJ. He doesn't really know the offense as well. He almost looks confused sometimes when he's out there. So I don't know if maybe that's an issue where he's just really had a hard time adjusting to the offense, and maybe that's why his play really hasn't shown. So I think there is definitely something to be said about that. And then my guy Quentin Morris, Mike. I mean, he's had a really good preseason. I think he is a practice squatter for sure. I don't think he's going to clear waivers where he gets put on another team's active 53-man roster. So he'll definitely be a practice squatter, no doubt about it.
So I just want to give you a little bit of OJ Howard's contract. I thought it was 2 years, but they signed a 1-year deal, $3.5 million. And let's see, which included 3.2 million of that is guaranteed. So it'd be a huge, pretty big hit against the cap.
Yeah.
If you were to release them. So there's that to consider as well. But in my mind, it's Sweeney. I'm sorry to say. I know we were excited. You were excited. OJ Howard was
so excited.
Was he not a number one at one point?
Yeah, he was I think 21st overall or 19th overall. He was a first rounder. Yeah.
He just hasn't panned out. He's been on other teams and just hasn't really panned out on that. And I don't see it changing here. So if I had to say anything, it's Sweeney over Howard. But again, with that money on the line, $3.5 million, and that's all going to go against the cap.
Yeah,
that may come into play. But based on what we saw, and like you said, seeing him play late into the game, I'm feeling Sweeney has the edge there.
100% agree. And like you said, we were so excited about it. It gave almost an unfairness to our offense. You have two super athletic tight ends. And OJ's shown, this guy is a baller. When he's on, he's on. And even in Tampa, he had some nice years there. Last year, he got hurt. And I think injuries have just been the biggest issue for him, where he hasn't been able to get back up to full speed. And I'm talking major league injuries. I think there was an ACL. There was an Achilles, maybe. I'm not sure if that's right, but I thought it was Achilles. So that sort of hindered him in, exceeding the potential that we thought he had coming into the league. So yeah, it's been tough. And if we could package him in a trade where we maybe offset some of that guaranteed salary where another team has to pay for it, I don't doubt Brandon Beane could get it done. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. All right, let's go to the wide receiver. Now, this is where I still think there's a battle. I do think there's a battle here, and I think it's Isaiah Hodgins, and Kumaro. Now, obviously, they could keep both, but again, I'm going off of last year, so let me just bring that up. Last year, in the wide receiver group, we kept 6 wide receivers, and we had Stevenson on the IR to start the season, so technically 7. One was on the IR. So if you look at the Bills this year, obviously Hodgins has been having a great training camp. He's also been looking pretty good. Now the one thing I say about him, he doesn't get separation. He never has a lot of separation on anybody, but he's got hands. He's got magnets for hands, and he made some critical 4th down catches in that game on Friday, and he's been making great catches all preseason long. Kumaro, of course, we know brings that special teams play, and we know that Kumaro, if he was released, is going to get snagged up. Mr. Aaron Rodgers is hoping, he's crossing his fingers that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Where are you at with this talk of, maybe we do keep 7 this year? Maybe we do. Again, we only kept 7 last year because we had 1 on IR for the first, it felt like Marquis Stevenson was on IR most of the season. He came out for a couple games. But where are you at with this battle?
I got to give the edge to Isaiah Hodgins. It was his numbers weren't glaring or anything like that. It was 4 for 19, I think he had on Friday. But the 2 back-to-back catches he made on that drive, that was super impressive. And before that, even some of the catches that he made, every single catch he had was pretty much contested, like you said, Mike, but he was able to come away with it. And that's all that matters to me. I don't care if you get a ton of separation. If you're making the catches, you get the first down, and you're reliable, that means the world. So I definitely think he has the edge. As far as offensive play goes, he definitely has an edge. Now, the biggest question is, what do we value more? Do we value a guy that can come in as a depth guy if there's a ton of injuries, that knows the offense and can make the tough catches, which Jake Kummerow has also shown from time to time? Or do we value the special teams aspect where we play him as a gunner? You want a guy that's, sometimes bigger, that can get off those blockers, those two guys that are jamming you at the line, and get downfield and make a play. And Jake Kummerow has shown that he could do that. So do you value that more than a guy who can contribute more on offense? And that's a hell of a question. So I think in terms of the offensive side of the ball, Isaiah definitely has the upside. And it's hard not to keep a guy like that. Like, he's shown so much development. Like, he finally started to show the reason why we actually drafted him and why he was sort of a gem, quote unquote. So let's run through this receiver lineup real quick. Let's just at least get the guys that are for sure locks.
Yep.
And there's another guy actually we're going to talk about in a minute here.
Right.
So you have Steph Diggs, you have Gabe Davis, you have Isaiah McKenzie, who came up limping actually yesterday in practice. I don't think it's anything to be nervous about. Jamison Crowder. Now, this is a very interesting battle as well at the slot position. I think in terms of play this preseason, Isaiah McKenzie has outplayed him 1,000-1. And that, Jamison obviously has been injured and he's still trying to get back to full speed. He had 2 catches for 21 yards in the first preseason game with the against the Colts. But ever since that, really hasn't done anything. I don't even know if he was dressed for the last 2 preseason games. So he has not really given us a whole lot in terms of what he's shown on the field this preseason. So that's another guy I feel like could even be trade bait. I know I talked about him potentially being traded during the season, but in terms of where he stands on the team, I'm not super confident with it, and I feel like we can get it done with Isaiah at the slot position. And my stance has totally changed on this. Yeah. When we first signed Jamison Crowder, I was super fired up. I'm like, this is a faster Cole Beasley. Like, we're upgrading that position. Didn't even factor Isaiah McKenzie as a potential battle for that starting slot receiver position. So now my thoughts have sort of shifted. I feel like Isaiah is definitely the guy there. He's going to be utilized a lot more, and he offers just way more value there. So that is another thing to look out for. Whether we cut Jamison Crowder or trade him, I feel like he's too good to be cut. It's one of those things, but also could be a surprise cut too. But I feel like if we could package him as well, maybe we package him and OJ Howard in a trade. I don't know how well that would, go over, but that would definitely open up a spot to keep both Jake Kummerow and Isaiah Hodgins.
Interesting. Yeah. So if I like that a lot, because you're right. I haven't seen a lot from Crowder. We probably could get something from him. He's definitely, he's got skills. I mean, yeah. I would love to see him on the field. He really hasn't had an opportunity to shine. He was a little dinged up in training camp, and he's had a few passes thrown his way. But when you're not getting thrown to by the Josh Allens of the world, and you're in there with a lot of the second stringers, third stringers, it's a little tough to shine. But we know what he's done in his career. Yeah. So that's a good take. I think you could get something for him potentially. Would I be bummed if we did that? No. I think we have a lot of talent that, like you said, Isaiah is going to be that guy. I, believe it or not, have a lot of faith in Mr. Khalil Shakir. I have no problem.
Another guy we didn't even mention. Yeah.
Right. So
you have him too, who offers, he's like refreshing to watch. And he is so pro ready already. I mean, as a 5th rounder, it's amazing the transition for this kid. He's going to be our starting punt returner. There's no doubt in my mind. Yeah. But where he factors in the offense, we have to find a way to get him involved, right? So that's another guy. I mean, you have so Isaiah McKenzie, Khalil Shakir, and then maybe Isaiah and Jake Kummerow both stay on the team. We trade away Jamison Crowder.
Yeah, interesting. So if we did that, then that leaves us with Isaiah and Khalil for that slot position. Mm-hmm. I guess that'd be fine.
And I actually feel confident with that, Mike, which is crazy to say.
If they stay healthy, absolutely. I have no problem with either one of them. I feel good if they're on the field. They get a little dinged up. But, so I agree. Crowder, maybe trade. And the thing is, I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to say if I had to choose between Kummerow and Hodgins, I'm probably going to say Kummerow.
Okay.
I know you said Hodgins. I'm going to say
Yeah.
Kumaro. I'm going to take the special teams. And let me say this. Kumaro can catch the ball.
Oh yeah.
Kumaro is a big receiver. He's got good hands. I know he fumbled in the first game, but he was going down and somebody just reached in and stripped the ball. It wasn't like he just blatantly fumbled that ball. It was a nice strip tackle. But when Aaron Rodgers is disappointing in someone, losing someone,
Yeah.
I put a little stock. I put a lot of stock on that. So if Kumaro, there was a couple times he was out there, and he's got good hands. So I believe that for me, if I had to choose, if they don't keep all of them, if I had to choose, it's going to be Kumaro. I got my son in here coming to bug us for a little bit. Come say hi. Come say hi. He's probably wondering, Dad, you've done 2 shows, man. I
What's
want
up,
your
Jonah?
time. What's up,
Yeah.
Jonah? So let us finish up, buddy. We're getting close, okay?
And then I will say this: Jake Kumaro actually has caught a regular season touchdown pass against the Broncos. I know it didn't matter a whole lot back then, but it was basically garbage time at that point. But the fact that he actually has regular season experience like that, and Isaiah doesn't, that maybe gives him more of an edge too.
Yeah, didn't you tell me, wasn't Isaiah Hodgins kind of like people were thinking he was better than Gabe Davis? I think you were telling me about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Is that
When
the
they were
case?
drafted, they were in the same class together, Mike, and people were more high on Isaiah Hodgins than they were Gabe Davis. But then Isaiah got hurt, sort of fell out of favor a little bit. So here we are right now. He's really trying to prove himself. I think he did enough to make this roster. I really do.
Okay. I have to agree. So we'll see. I mean, I'm sorry. If they keep
You have
7.
to disagree. Yeah.
I'm disagreeing
Right,
if they
right.
stick with 6.
Mhm.
If they keep 7, obviously he's there. So it'll be interesting. We
And
don't
then-
have to wait long, Jake. We only have to wait a couple days.
I know. And then that does bring up the question because we restructured Deion Dawkins. So
Yeah.
maybe we keep less receivers than we did last year to keep a spot open for a potential Odell Beckham signing in the future.
And I know are you going to bring up Neil Powell?
I'll bring him up. I'll bring him and Tanner Gentry up.
All right.
I think unfortunately there's no space for either of them. Although Neil Powell showed a little bit on Friday. I thought he actually did pretty well. He offers size. He's 6'4". He's a bigger guy, BYU receiver. Maybe practice squad, but I really can't see it happening. I feel like we have way too many other guys that are in that practice squad eligibility zone that I feel like are better fits there. So I definitely think he played well Friday. He was definitely one of the better players on offense, but yeah, I just don't know if there's space in general for him. And same with Tanner Gentry, but that is one of Josh's guys. He's going to probably lobby for him a little bit, and he's been on the practice squad over the past few seasons on and off, so maybe there's a spot for him. I would say there's a better spot for Tanner Gentry, a better chance for him to have a practice squad spot over Neil. And then
Gotcha.
Marquez Stevenson, like we said, probably going to go on IR, so he's not going to even count for the roster.
True. It is good that they are able to keep him there for a little bit, but he really didn't. I mean, he was starting to come on, I guess. He didn't have a really good training camp. Everything you would hear is negative, but then he started to come on, got injured, and just like last year. And I'm concerned, like he just seems to have no one even ghosts somebody. No one touches him, and he comes up limping with his foot 2 years in a row now. So that's concerning.
Yeah, it is. It's very concerning. It reminds me of Sammy Watkins with his foot injury, and a lot of people were kind of like bashing him for it, but I don't know if people understand the severity of that, especially at the receiver position. If you have an injured foot in general, you know how hard it is to run and to be at full speed and plant and cut and do all those things. It is very difficult. So, yeah, I wish him nothing but the best. And we'll see. We'll see what happens with him if he's even on the roster in general.
Yeah. So let's finish up with the running backs, obviously. And this is another spot here where there's some concern. There's a guy who shined, Mr. Raheem Blackshear. And he had another great game, 13 carries for 47 yards. And let's see, did he get into the passing game? He did. He seems to get into the passing game every week. He had 2 for 12.
Good catch, tough run after the catch.
When he runs, I mean, he looks like a seasoned vet out there with his cuts and that. Again, he's going against second-level backups typically, second and third stringers, but he's looked so good. So last year, the Bills kept 3 on the active roster. This year, we know that they're going to keep James Cook. By the way, nobody really looked too exciting other than Blackshear in the running game. Again, it's hard to run when your offensive line that's in front of you, is not that starting lineup. But let's just look at the locks, right? Last year we kept 3. We got James Cook as a lock. Singletary, a lock. Tywan Jones, probably a lock, right? I mean, he's our special team ace. I know you're a big special teams guy, so I got to say he's there. He's been in the league quite some time. If one of these other folks could, and you even mentioned it, Blackshear last week, close in size, right? Size-wise,
Yeah.
height-wise, weight-wise, very close to Taiwan Jones. Could he, and I don't know, have you been watching special teams? Have they even had Blackshear out there?
They have. They've had him returning, actually, more
I know
so
returning,
than anything.
but have they been on coverage at all?
I haven't seen him in kickoff coverage or punt coverage. It's always just been as a return man. So that is definitely interesting. And the fact that Taiwan Jones hasn't even taken a snap kind of tells me that they feel pretty confident with him being a gunner, as a special teams guy in coverage. So, yeah. God, I wish I could say, he's an active 53-man guy, but it's just there's too many guys ahead of him, unfortunately. So we just got to hope and pray that he lands a spot on our practice squad.
I stand corrected. They kept 4 last year in Taiwan. And the reason I said 3
with Taiwan.
Taiwan just
Right.
4. All right. So if we go back to that real quick, I said James Cook's a lock. We know Singletary's a lock. Let's assume Taiwan's a lock. Who's that? Who's that fourth guy? Zach Moss, Blackshear. We know if I believe neither of these guys will clear waivers if they're released. Neither of them. What's your thought there?
I think Zach Moss is definitely a lock. There's no way, especially with Aaron Cromer and that offensive line, and sort of demanding the physicality up front. Zach Moss has a spot on this team. Actually, might be a good pick late in fantasy drafts just because of the potential for being a goal line back and scoring touchdowns. Yeah, and you got to bank on it, obviously. But man, he looks pretty good. I think a lot of people have been against him and totally for just getting rid of him altogether. But he offers a unique side of the game where we don't really have that goal line back. We have more of like the scat back type. Although I will say James Cook looks for contact, and he likes running into people and lowering a shoulder a little bit, which is always good to see. But no, I definitely think Zach Moss is on the team. No doubt about it.
All right. So how do we get Blackshear in that
Boy, I don't
roster?
know. I wish I could tell you. I wish we could swap him out for Taiwan Jones. Do I see the coaching staff doing that? I just don't, which is unfortunate. So I think at best we're going to get him on the practice squad. And, like you said, Mike, now other teams have to deem him better than any of their other active roster members or some of their active roster members to put him on their team and claim him as a waiver. So there is that. So it does still give us a chance, I think, to stash him on our practice squad.
Yeah, it's hard to say that he takes over the Taiwan Jones responsibilities. So I don't think he'll clear waivers because we saw in that first preseason whoever was the reporter on the sideline, she was saying she was getting calls from other execs from teams asking, "Do you think this guy makes the squad?" She said yes. So actually, was it Blackshear? I think it was Blackshear. She was
it was.
About, right?
Yep. Nope. That's right. Yeah.
All right. So she said yes. I don't know what that means, but how they going to keep him, I don't know. So
I want him so bad to be on the team, Mike. Like that has been my guy, and
I'm going to stick with your guy. I'm going to go out on a limb that somehow the Bills figure it out and keep him on the squad. I'm going with that.
Do we keep 5 then? Do you think?
Man, you put me on a spot there. I would say
I know it's tough.
It's either do I see them releasing Taiwan Jones? They really value special team play.
They do.
So I don't think so. So yes, if we're gonna get there, Jake, I think that happens. Or you had mentioned maybe a Zach Moss trade of some sort. I don't know, but I do like that Zach brings that physicality. We were expecting that last year. We didn't see it. We know of the injury. He had pins in his ankle all season long, made it hard. He's fully healthy now. He's looked good when he's been out there. And so you could see the Zach Moss that we all have expected to see the last couple seasons. So it's a tough one, but I don't know. I'm going to leave it in Bean's hand, and I think they figure it out. If not, Blackshear will be snagged, and I do think we'll be sorry that happened years later. We'll be looking back at that if it happens. That's just my thought.
Guarantee the Giants go for him.
Oh, absolutely.
Guarantee it.
Yeah. So that's kind of it. It was a rough game. Obviously, there was the black cloud with the Ariza stuff, and I just felt like that carried over to that game. It was on people's minds. And obviously, we were trying to stay healthy, and we just started second and third stringers. And again, I do go back to saying there were starters from Carolina, and I do believe they will be a good team this year. I really do.
Yeah, I agree.
So also wanted to mention. So Jake, that's kind of it. I mean, did we miss anything? Did we leave anything out? There was no field goals. We know we're locked in with Tyler Bass and Reed Ferguson as the long snapper, so no issues there. We just got to find our punter, which we'll hear in the next couple of days. But final thoughts, and I want to talk about that 1990s versus 2022 ask that we had of my dad about a month.
I just
and a half
saw that.
ago.
Yeah, I looked at that. That was pretty cool, Mike.
Yeah. So anyhow, final thoughts and then we'll get out of here.
The best part about the game was being able to watch Matt Barkley punt 53 yards. It
That was
looked
cool.
awful, but to pin them in the 20, inside their own 20, that was pretty damn good. So, way to stay ready. He was told just before the game started that he was going to be the emergency punter, or actual punter, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So, great work by him. It was awesome to see him trot out there, knee brace and all, and just boot one 53 yards. Phenomenal.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It's like I said, I truly believe they could go back to the 60s where we had linebackers punting for us. Somebody can punt on that team. I guarantee you there's somebody who, if asked to do it, or, they probably don't want to step up and say, I can punt, but.
Right. Well, I think that alone solidifies Matt Barkley as at least a practice squatter. The fact that he can offer that,
Well, that's a possibility. And then you bring that, scare factor in. It's fourth down. Are they really punting, or we got a quarterback?
A guy who could throw it. Yeah.
We're just joking, of course. Obviously, I believe they're going to pick up a punter, but it's interesting stuff. So all good. I do want to mention. So about a month and a half, 2 months ago, Jake and I did a show, 1990s versus the 2022 Bills. Who would win that game, right? And we went back and forth, and I feel like the comments that we've seen, people were leaning towards the 1990 Bills.
Yep.
However, there were still a lot of good folks saying Josh Allen's the difference in that one. So Brian Label, who's part of our a subscriber to the channel, he's also a subscriber to my dad's channel who does gaming reviews. So my dad picked up a game. I think it's called Second Season. I'm Dad, if you're still out there, put in the name of the game that you're using to simulate this. So I have links in the description below. He's played the first quarter. He's played the second quarter. They are long. It's like an actual football game. I mean, it feels like by the time he's all said and done, he will put into it about 3.5 hours. It's called Second Season.
Nice.
There it is right there. Right now it's halftime. The 1990 Bills have a 14-9 lead.
Wow.
So very close game.
Great.
If you watch that, he's got stats. We'll post that later. So when it finishes, we'll finally know, as far as the simulation goes, who the simulation thinks will win that game. He's got another game that he's also going to do the simulation. So we'll get more information as that goes on. But I thought that was fun to share. He's doing the simulation as we're speaking right now. He's been through 2 quarters, and he should probably wrap that up in the next few days, I would imagine. So fun stuff.
That's awesome.
So check it out in the description below. Again, reminder, we have a Discord channel. Join our Discord channel. It's so much fun talking to all the Bills fans out there, the Bills Mafia. And it's just a way to kind of, get in there, talk about our concerns, talk about, the upcoming game, and just a lot of good stuff going on. And you also have fantasy football. If you're in the fantasy football, there's a thread there. You're going to be able to ask Rick and Chris questions. Those guys are in every type of league. I know, Jake, you are as well. So you'll get a lot of good insights from the folks on our channel here. And then we have a golf thread as well. So if you're in the golf, DFS golf, DK golf, or betting golf, there's a thread there as well. But Jake and I hope to see you over there. Join that Discord channel. Join us in the Buffalo Bills thread. And let's go Bills. Did I miss anything, Jake? Are we good to go? We had, again, it was a gentleman's name who won the contest one more time. Let me go back.
Ryan Redline.
Ryan Redline. I placed a comment out there congratulating him. We expect to connect with him shortly, and hopefully you will meet up with him, and we can maybe get him on the show. But at the very least, at the game, you'll be able to meet him and take pictures. So that's it. I appreciate everyone out there in the channel. Big Gal, my dad. I know there were others watching during the show, and we'll see you soon. We're gonna have a pregame show. Jake and I will talk about that. I'm thinking Wednesday night before the big game. Possibly let's do our pregame show. And of course, I'll be going to that game, and I am going to be recording the whole experience from the time we leave our house on the drive to the time we get there. All the cool Bills fans we meet. While we're in our seats, I'm going to be taking video.
Mike, I was just going to say your mic sounds a little off right now.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. That's weird.
But I got most of what you're saying.
Yeah. Is this still bad?
So, yeah, it's still a little off. I'm not sure. Not sure what happened, but it kind of sped up a little bit. But anyways, I think he covered it. Tonight, there is a mock draft as well. I'll mention that. I know the guys are doing that later on tonight. I'll be involved with it. That'll be super fun. It's on the Sleeper app that they're using, so that'll be super cool and really excited for it. But, hey, go Bills, baby. I got nothing else. Let's see what happens with this roster. But, man, I'm fired up. Can't wait. Let's get it done, Mike.
Take care. Bye. Go Bills.